In this video, I'm showing you how to replace the propellers on your BetaFPV Meteor75 Pro O4. So I've got my OnlyFans box with some propellers in there, and I've got some new propellers for this drone. So here are 4 new propellers for my drone. If you take a closer look at them, you will see that they are slightly different and that there are actually 2 sets of propellers. If you rub your finger over it, you can feel that there is some printing on one side of these propellers. So that's the upside. So for now, just feel where the printing is of the label and place them with the text facing upwards. As you can see, these 2 propellers are the same, and these 2 propellers are the same, but they are different. So the sharp lower edge is either, well, if I let them point at the top, to the left side or to the right side. And this is, if you look at your drone, the same way. Some propellers have the sharp edge to the left and others have them to the right. Now, if you take an even closer look, you will notice that each propeller is actually facing the other way than its neighbors. So if this has the sharp edge pointing to the right, then this one has it pointing to the left, and this one has it pointing to the left. And that is true for each propeller. So if I look at this one, I will see that the sharp edge is pointing to the left. So its neighboring propellers both have the sharp edges pointing to the right. Make a note on how these propellers are installed and which way they are facing, because you want to have them facing the new ones in the same way. If you have trouble remembering, take a picture so you have that information. Just makes life easier. Now, to replace it, I of course have to take off the old propeller. So what you do is you grab it with 3 fingers by the motor so you can keep it in place. You don't want to just be jerking on the propeller and possibly jerking the motor off from the frame. So you hold the motor. I used to just start wiggling the propeller back and forth, and then slowly it should come off. And here it is. So while it's off, take a closer look. Maybe there's some hairs or some debris trapped around here. I've already seen that one of my propellers has some debris there, so I will remove that later. And then I get the new replacing propeller. So once again I can look at its neighbors, and of course I remembered which way it was on there. So I need it to be the opposite of its neighbors, so that's this way. And I just put it on there, put it on straight. And just wiggle it a little bit until it finds its way. And then you can just push it on. Put it firmly into place like this, and then you have replaced it. And you do this for each propeller, of course. Now, these propellers are relatively cheap. So shipping is probably the biggest part of the cost of your propellers. So when you buy them, I suggest you buy them in bulk. I got a few when I bought the drone initially, and then I recently just added a lot more. When do you replace the propellers? Well, if you start inspecting them, you might see some small damage on the propeller because you hit something, some wear and tear. I've got some slightly damaged propellers here in my OnlyFans case. Like looking at this one, if I feel it, then here I can feel that there is a notch in there. It was still working and flying, but because they're cheap, I figured, well, let's just replace it and see if there is a difference. I did notice, however, that with these propellers that I had on there, I had a lot of problems with yellow, and I'm not sure if it's caused by the propeller or something else. But that's something for another video where I'm going to investigate on reducing the yellow effect on this drone. Okay, so when do you replace the propellers? You can replace the propellers when they are damaged. Sometimes that damage is fairly obvious. The parts of the blades are just completely broken off. Sometimes they're slightly damaged. So for example, in this propeller, you can see some discoloration of where it hit stuff. But if I rub my finger around over the propeller, I can feel here that there are notches in there. Every notch, every part where it is cracked, chipped, can cause vibration, and that will cause your drone to fly less stable, give a worse picture, cause jello. But how much damage you are willing to accept, how much vibrations you are willing to accept, that's up to you. But it's better to replace the propeller before it completely breaks and your drone crashes, of course. When do you replace your propellers? Do you look at damage to the propellers? Do you replace them after a certain period of time or after a number of flight hours? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, what to do if the propeller doesn't come off that easily? You can either try to force it off using some knives or screwdrivers or any object that you can stick in here between the motor and the propeller, and then start wiggling it loose. And if you do that with 2 knives or 2 screwdrivers at the same time, so you can more or less push it upwards in one direction instead of wedging it sideways, that's a way to do it. But in my opinion, you're probably damaging the propeller when you're doing that. Now these are the propellers that you are removing, so it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I still like to keep the old propellers around. They're not that badly damaged. So I might want to use them again in the future. So I don't want to damage them any further. An alternative is that you use some kind of dental floss or rope that you tie around the propeller. So you start putting it around all the blades, and then you can pull it upwards while still you're holding your fingers on the motor. So you're putting the stress on the axis where you're pulling the propeller off, and you're not trying to jerk the motor off the frame. Now that's a way to get some more force on there and pull it off. But I think most of the time the best way is just to do it by hand and just start wiggling the propeller back and forth. And that might start off slow, and you might just be able to move it back and forth and it doesn't feel like it's going up. But just getting that wiggle in there, it will slowly start to move in the direction you want. I've replaced the propellers on the drone, and now I want to check if they are indeed correctly installed. So first of all, we can check, are they all facing the opposite direction as their neighbor? And they are. So this one is facing with the sharp edge left. This one is facing with the sharp edge right. So this one is facing again with the sharp end left. And this one is facing with the sharp end right. So at a first glance, it should be correct. So let's start up the propellers. First thing to look for is to actually listen for, how does it sound? If the propellers are spinning in the wrong direction, they should make a lot more noise. So you should hear a difference in the noise that your drone is producing. Well, it's still nicely and quiet, so I'm assuming that is okay. So let's see in which direction they are actually spinning. I slowly put my finger down in the middle of the propeller and I look at which way it is pushing it. And it should be pushing the sharp edge, that's not the one that should be hitting the air first. So that is the tail end of the blade. Now for this one it is okay. So then I can immediately deduct that it is okay for all the propellers, because they are facing the opposite direction, and that's how the drones are configured. Sometimes when you start stopping it like this, it won't spin up again. Like this one, but that's okay. If you just disarm your drone and arm it again, it should be fine. If you found this video useful and you don't want to miss future videos, hit the subscribe button. It really helps my channel.